Hey everybody, welcome back to the GameTaffy. I'm your host Ben Davis, and the Oculus Rift just secured $75 million from a new investor. Anderson Horowitz, and Anderson Horowitz. So Mr. A, formerly of Netscape and a big mover and shaker in the tech world, just invested big time into the Oculus company to bring the Rift to the consumer market with a whopping $75 million. Now before, they had raised over $2 million on Kickstarter and had raised an additional $16 million through venture capitalism. But now with $75 million, there's a very good chance that the Rift could come out next year. So there's been a lot of talk about what it could be priced. A lot of people believe that it will stay at $300 since that's what the current development kit costs. There has been rumor that once this goes to market, or even before it goes to market, the dev kit could drop to $100 per unit. So that brings up the discussion for today. What would you pay for virtual reality gaming for the new Oculus Rift? Personally, I would pay $200. And I would hope that it would be out in time for holidays 2014. And my reasoning behind that is this is a peripheral, and frankly it's a monitor. It's a very good monitor. So $200 as a starting number I think would be very fair. That's priced reasonably, especially in the monitor market. And I think it would sell gangbusters if it was marketed not only as a virtual reality machine, but as a machine for home use with regular computing. So what do you think? What would you pay for the Oculus Rift? What do you think is a fair price? Go ahead and leave a comment below. Yesterday we talked about the NPD sales reports coming out and how really they shouldn't matter to the average consumer. They should just be something that investors and manufacturers and retailers are interested in, but for some reason consumers want to look at those numbers. They want to see that their home team is doing best. So Elizabeth Johnson, a good friend of mine, said, since the NPD doesn't affect you, what does? What made you decide to buy a PS4? Then she goes on to talk about how the community really isn't a good enough reason for her to buy a console, mostly because whenever she plays online, people discover that she's a woman and they just start going crazy, which is sadly a very common trend. Usually what affects me is history. What did I buy before, and will that make me want to buy it next time? My favorite franchise on the Super Nintendo was the Final Fantasy franchise, and really everything that Square Enix put out. So when Squaresoft announced that they were going to be exclusive for the PlayStation, yeah, I was going to miss out on like Mario and GoldenEye, and I knew there would be a new Mario Kart, and of course Smash Brothers came out, which blew my mind. But for my money, I wanted that brand new Final Fantasy game. So I went with Square over to the PlayStation, and I stayed on the PlayStation for the PlayStation 2 because it was backwards compatible. By then I was kind of a fanboy. The Xbox 360 came out, and I knew that you had to pay for Xbox Live, and I'm a cheap bastard, so I didn't want to buy that. So I stuck with the PlayStation 3. Eventually I did buy a 360, but I've never paid for Xbox Live. What sold me on the PS4 was the fact that PlayStation Plus transferred from the PS3 to the PS4, and I didn't have to buy a separate subscription. All promises aside, the fact that I could maintain my PS Plus account and continue to get free games every week was my primary selling factor. It didn't have to do with the technology, friends, even my console history beyond the fact that I had the PlayStation Plus. Because this was a from-scratch console generation. With the exception of the Wii U, everything was not backwards compatible. So you were starting all over with these new consoles, and PlayStation Plus sold me. Has nothing to do with community or anything like that. Hey, guess what? It's the weekend, which means I'm not going to be back till Monday, but thanks for watching. I'm Ben Davis, and this was the GameTaffy.